Hi, my name is Cale Good. You can find me at phillyguitarlessons.com. Today I want to talk to you about tuning the guitar by ear by Gerald Klickstein. This is not an instructional video. If you were looking for an instructional video, you should go somewhere else, but you will get inferior results. I have heard 4 methods of tuning the guitar. You will see a number, at least 2 of them I guarantee you're going to find on YouTube, and I'm going to explain to you why these are inferior and why Klickstein's method is the best I found, and I actually prefer it to my $70 Strobe clip-on tuner. Alright, so here we go. The most common method to tune the guitar, alright, is this 5th fret method. And you just go across the strings like that, the 4th fret for those 2 strings, and then the 5th fret again. That's the thing you're going to see most often. The disadvantage to this is that as soon as you go to tune, you have to pick your finger up, and then you're just guessing at what pitches the pitches you're trying to match. So you listen, guess, and eventually you hope you get it right. I guess technically you could do this, but that's kind of silly. There's better ways around that, and the better way around that is to tune using harmonics. Alright, so now you can actually hear the tones as you're trying to match the pitch and try and get them to be exactly the same. And what you're doing when you do that, you listen for that wobble that you may remember from physics class or physical science class in high school, when 2 pitches are almost in tune but just about, just a little bit out. You hear a wobble, and what you're trying to do with the harmonics is get that wobble to disappear, and then you know that those 2 strings are perfectly in tune. However, what happens here in both this harmonic method and the 5th fret method is that if you make a slight mistake here, all right, that mistake gets carried over. So what happens a lot of times is a slight mistake here becomes a slightly larger mistake here, becomes kind of an obnoxious mistake here, and then however you decide to do this one, right? And then this here, by the time you get to there, these 2 strings are not so pretty in tune. And I didn't tune this guitar for this lesson because I'm not really playing anything here. Now, there's another method. What you need to do to solve that problem is to have a string that you tune everything to, or that you reference. And this is what I was taught in college. I was taught to use the 5th fret, or the 1st string as my reference pitch, and I would tune everything to that. Let's see here, I haven't done this in forever, but I would go like that. And that works pretty good too, but it ignores the fact that the guitar is built to be perfectly out of tune. And this is something you've probably never heard before. That is because in modern instruments, we have every note perfectly out of tune because it is impossible to have every note perfectly in tune at the same time. And that is because, for example, the way instruments used to be tuned way back in the day was that they would tune, say the piano, they would take all the octaves and make all the octaves perfectly in tune with each other. So C to C to C, all the C's would be perfectly in tune. And then what they would do is that they would go to the next simplest division. So an octave is dividing a vibrating string in half. The next simplest division is in thirds. And if you divide a string into thirds, you get the interval of a 5th. Or a 4th, it's one, they invert to one another. And so let's just say the 5th, so you would tune to the 5th, all right? And then you would go, so you'd go C to G, and then you tune all the G's in octaves, and you would go G to D, tune all the D's in octaves, and this worked great as long as you stayed in just a few keys. As soon as you had ventured out into further, more adventurous keys, things sounded out of tune. So that didn't really work. And so what they did was they decided to break the octave into equal parts, all right? And when they did that, what happens is that everything, like I said, becomes perfectly out of tune with one another, or equally out of tune with one another. Now you can look this up more on Wikipedia. I'll include some links to some different temperaments or tuning systems in the description below. It's kind of fascinating stuff. Now, we're just talking about tuning here, and that's part of the issue with that method. It doesn't take into account the fact that you need to make slight adjustments there. So I had one teacher who told me that I needed to make the 4ths and the 5ths, the intervals of the 4th and the 5th, equally out of tune. That was like mind-blowing and crazy difficult. Never felt really great about my results with that, even though it tried to address that issue. Klickstein combines all the best features of this in this one book, laid out nicely, has some sheets for you, has some alternate tunings in here, as well as ways to stabilize the strings so they stay in tune when you go to those alternate tunings, and so you can stay in tune through the piece. And the system is basically uses harmonics, all right? And he gives you pointers on how out of tune to make that harmonic so that it is perfectly out of tune across the whole fretboard. And then you always reference back to the A string, because A440 is the common reference pitch. So you reference back to that A string so that you get everything nice and well out of tune. He uses the beats idea, the way that things waver, to show you how to get the strings perfectly out of tune. And like I said, I like this better than my Strobo Clip $70 clip-on tuner, you know, top of the line kind of clip-on tuner thing there. It's great. How expensive is it? 13 bucks. Really love this. I teach my students to tune this way. Way better results than anything else I've ever done, and it's just about foolproof. So I highly recommend this book. I'll include a link in the description below. Thanks. Have a nice day.